Hey, future real estate agents. Today for our real estate exam prep, I'm going to be covering prorations. I'm breaking it down in 3 simple steps. You can solve these problems in 3 steps every time. They're pretty simple. There's bound to be at least 1 or 2 questions on the exam about prorations, so please stick around until the end of this video. That way, when you see the exam question on the test, you'll know the 3 steps, you'll solve the problem, get the correct answer, move on. I'm fired up today because your guys' comments about these videos helping you study and or pass the exam make me so happy. So please hit the like or subscribe button, and I'm happy to keep making these videos for you. There's no better way to stay fired up than talking about prorations. I don't know how to add sound to videos, or otherwise I'd put crickets there. Maybe I'll learn soon. Alrighty. Let's get started with our real estate prorations made simple. You'll get these proration questions right every time with these 3 simple steps. The real estate math does not need to be hard. It's all simple once you break it down. So prorations, let's go over the definition. Proration is the allocation or dividing of certain money items at the closing. The key to remember about prorations is that the person who uses it needs to pay for it. So why are prorations important? Well, because we need to make sure the numbers add up for our clients when we're agents, but also it's going to be on the exam. We have to do prorations because on closing day, you're not closing on the first or last day of the year. You have to figure out who owes who what, so on closing day, everything is a done deal on that day. You can't go chase down a seller and say, hey, you owe me for the last 12 days of the HOA fees for the last month before closing day. All of this is taken care of on closing day, which is why we have to do the math. But it's not hard math. It's 3 simple steps, no more and no less. So let's cover some proration issues. First of all, it's math. There's banker years, calendar years, 360 versus 365 days in a year. Is it 30 or 31 days in a month? So let's just address these issues. On the national side of the exam, all the questions will use a banker's calendar of 360 days and 30 days in a month. Check your state side for the rules. Like in Colorado, I know that it's 365 and you have to know the number of days in the month. But for the national exam, it's 360 days and 30 days in a month. So that's what we'll be using for our example problems. And then the next issue is, well, who pays for the day of closing? Because just having that 1 day off will lead you to getting the wrong answer. On all these practice exams, they try and throw you off with that. The numbers will be so close together, and the difference is who paid for that day of closing, buyer or seller. So for the national exam, remember, you guys know, if you watch my videos, you know I love acronyms. If you haven't, go check out the very first video I ever made. It's all acronyms. But ours for this is SUN. Seller owns national. So on the national exam, the seller is paying for closing day. And then words to look for that try and trip you up on these exams. They love to try and trick us, but joke is on them because we know what to look for. Payment due in arrears means payment due after. So like a water bill due at the end of the month, that's a payment in arrears. Payment in advance means paying before. So paying an HOA fee on October 1st for the whole month of October is paying in advance. So here's the money. Here's our 3 steps. Step 1, count the days. How many days is the buyer or seller responsible for? Step 2, figure out the daily rate. Depends on what's being asked for. Taxes, insurance, association dues, lease payments, etc. You're going to divide this by 360 or 30. And step 3, you multiply the days by the daily rate. So let's put this into practice. So Jen is selling a house to Josh, and the closing date is June 12th. The HOA fees of $130 a month for the month of June were paid in advance, so paid before. How much will Josh owe Jen at closing for the HOA fee? So Josh is the one buying the house. He's going to owe Jen for all days after the 12th, because Jen paid for the whole month of June and is only owning that house until the 12th, Jen pays for closing day because that's the rule for the national exam. So count the days. 30 days minus 12, those are Jen's days. So that equals 18 days. Josh owes for 18 days. Now we figure out the daily rate. So $130 divided by 30 equals 4.33333. We'll round down to 4.32. So now we have the days and the rate. So now all we have to do is multiply our days, Josh owes for 18 days, times the daily rate of 4.32. And that equals 77.76. So let's round up to 78. Because Josh owes Jen on the closing statement, Jen is credited $78 and Josh is debited $78. All right, so let's pretend that the closing date is, just switch up these numbers and say the closing date is June 22nd. The HOA fees stay the same. We're just going to change up the date. So how much will Josh owe Jen at closing for the HOA fee now? So the steps are the exact same. Count the days. So we're going to do 30 minus 20 days. So just changing this up, we're going to do 30 minus 22 because Jen was owning and living that house for 22 days. So Josh owes for just these 8 days now. And remember that Jen is paying for closing day. So that's why it's 30 minus 22, that equals 8 days. The daily rate's going to stay the same. 130 divided by 30 equals 432. Now we're going to do 8 times the daily rate for step 3. So count the days. We have 8 days. Step 2, figure out daily rate. We already did that. Step 3 times days by the daily rate. So 8 times 432. This is now what Josh owes Jen. So because Josh owes Jen on the closing statement, Jen is credited $34.56 and Josh is debited $34.56. So no matter how much we change up these numbers, those 3 steps will stay the same. Count the days, figure out the daily rate, times the days by the rate. And that is it. Prorations are really so simple. But let's do one more. So let's say Jen is selling a house to Josh with a closing date of July 16th. The property taxes of $3,000 are paid in arrears. How much will Jen owe Josh for taxes on the closing statement? So paid in arrears, paid after. So that means that Jen has been living in this house from January 1st through July 16th, tax-free, because they're paid in arrears. So now Jen is going to owe Josh on that closing statement. So step 1, count the days. 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 16. Because remember, seller owns national, seller pays for closing day. So that equals 196. So step 1, count the days, add it all up, we have 196 days. Step 2, figure out the daily rate. So our daily rate is going to be the taxes of $3,000 divided by, so we're figuring out for the whole year now, 360. So our daily rate is 8.3333. We'll round down to 8.32. So now we have step 1 done, counted the days. Step 2 done, we got our daily rate. So now we multiply the days times the daily rate. So that's 196 times 8.32. That's $1,630.72. So Jen owes Josh $1,630.72 on closing day for those taxes. In proration terminology, Josh is credited $1,630.72 and Jen is debited $1,630.72. So that's our proration terminology. That's what it would look like on the closing statement. Credit the who and debit the what. This is a whole nother topic that I could go on and on about. It seems confusing, but it's so simple. I'll cover that in my next video, so make sure you hit subscribe so you can get that notification. I don't have one of those fancy subscribe buttons inserted here either. I'm just here to help you all study. So remember, for the exam, prorations are not that hard. For any exam question that involves closing costs, whether it's loans, title insurance, assumed interest, HOA fees, taxes, etc., use these 3 simple steps. And remember, on the national exam, seller owes national. The seller pays for that closing day. Do not miss that question because you forgot this little acronym. Seller owns national. Seller pays for closing day. So I like to break all of this information thrown at us, or I like to take all of this information thrown at us, break it down, and make it easy for you guys to remember and understand. All right, guys, that's it for prorations. They're really not that hard. 3 simple steps. I hope this video helped break it down for you and make it simple and easy to understand. Best of luck with your studies. Comment below if there's anything else you'd like to see or when you're taking your exam. I'd love to know that. And I'll see you guys next time.